Well, hey there, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Bipolar Bachelor podcast. This is your host, Madison Frey, and I am thrilled to be back in the studio, joined by a couple of newbies, or a newbie, and two veterans. We have Ross and Jayne Quick from QRT joining us from Queensland, Australia, and James Bagans joining me here in the studio in New Orleans, Louisiana. So welcome to James, welcome to Ross and Jayne, welcome back, guys. We're happy to have you. How are you?
We're great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We're very happy to be back, and a big welcome to James too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yay. So this is part two of an epic two-part episode that Ross and Jayne Quick were on episode 6, part 1. And that part, we talked about Ross's journey with psychosis and anxiety and just different parts of his life that he wanted to unpack with us here on the Bipolar Bachelor podcast. And what we, what we do is promote for mental health and advocate for mental health, and we help to strike out the stigma surrounding mental health. So my first question is going to be to James. We'll actually let James introduce himself, and then we'll go to Ross and Jayne, and then they'll ask me questions. So this is going to be just kind of a conversation for half an hour. We're going to be fluid and, enjoy conversing with one another and just letting you hear the product of that. So we're 1 minute and 42 seconds into this season 2, episode 6, part 2. So, James, tell us a little bit about yourself, my brother.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is James Bagans at BJamesB_MPH. My background is a bachelor's in neuroscience and behavioral biology, double majored in African American studies at Emory University. And that was my undergrad. And then I moved on to a master's of public health with specialization in global health from Liberty University. And now I'm working on a master's of biochemistry and molecular biology from Tulane University in hopes to eventually go to medical school. I'm passionate about the intersection between mental health, spirituality, and exercise and nutrition. And I truly believe that we can overcome some of the most difficult things in our lives through the power of community and through the power of love.
Beautiful.
Well, that's not an intro right there. My God.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, James, thank you for joining us today. It is a joy to have you on the podcast. James's episode is going to be airing later this season. He is getting that recorded in a few weeks. But tonight we focus on Ross and Jayne Quick, whose mission is that exactly of what James just talked about.
100%.
Exercise, nutrition, mental well-being, meditation, all of that connectivity, spiritual connectivity to God and the universe and everything that we feel. Ross and Jayne, talk to us more about QRT and give us an update on how everything's going with you down under.
Yeah. It's going great. Thank you. We've been hosting a lot of sessions. Well, Ross hosts the sessions, the exercise sessions, and then...
And you host the post-workout discussion.
Yeah, I host a post-workout discussion, which is really just opening up for people to express how they're feeling. We also cater to support people as well. So it's not necessarily just the people that are struggling with their mental health issues. We're more focused to do with people, I guess, battling anxiety and depression. So I know you've gone through psychosis, Ross has gone through psychosis, but we don't have the qualifications in that. So using much more of a holistic approach, and with mindfulness, guided meditations, healthy eating, nutrition, yoga, mobility, foam rolling, stretching. Ross has done a lot of recordings and then the live sessions. So it's using that approach to encompass all different areas and just, assisting people through their journeys and just opening up and just being able to be a voice for them and express Ross's story as well as listen to what they're going through as well.
Wow. Very powerful. Ross, what have you got to say, mate, as you guys founded QRT together?
Yeah.
And the hopes of reaching millions of people all over the world and helping to improve lives. I mean, what has kind of been the focus behind QRT and the mission behind the business?
Sure.
If you can kind of elaborate on that.
Well, I suppose I talked a little bit about my story in our last podcast about recovering from psychosis and anxiety and depression. And It was a long time ago now, but it's been a long journey. And during that time, all I wanted to do was meet someone who'd come through the other side and tell me there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I suppose going back a decade ago, there wasn't a lot of talk about psychosis, and I suppose the people that had gone through it themselves didn't really want to relive that experience. I suppose mental health is a lot more spoken about these days. There's not as much of a stigma around it. So I wanted to be someone that could be a role model to those people that might be suffering at the moment. And as a qualified personal trainer and a teacher, I wanted to create something that people could speak to us as a team and speak about their stories and what they're going through. And maybe we could express my journey and how I dealt with my issues during that time. And I suppose we're trying to encapsulate exercise, mindfulness, healthy eating, and that holistic approach for people to deal with whatever condition they might be going through.
That's really powerful. James, what do you think of what they got going on over there on the Aussie side of things, the flip side of the world? What do you think about? Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it great?
Yes, absolutely. Up my alley.
Right? So James is obviously very fit on comparison to me, who's carrying a 6-month-old baby right now.
No.
I have an inner tube around my waist. At least that's what it feels like. But that's okay. I'm working hard to get rid of it. I'm working with James. I'm working with Ross and Jayne. We've done some mindfulness things, Jayne, that Jayne's kind of led us through. Jayne, can you kind of speak to the different mindfulness techniques that you use with your clients in QRT and help us to realize how you seek to aid those who have difficulty slowing down, whether it be from anxiety or difficulty speeding up, whether it be from depression?
Sure.
How have you used mindfulness techniques like that to save people like Ross and myself and other people who have worked with you at QRT?
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest key factor is staying present and not letting the mind wander, because the mind can easily create stories which potentially aren't real or not in reality. And I think it's really bringing it back and trying to stay focused, trying to stay present and in that state which you are. So we've actually got, I think with you, Jared, we did a muscle relaxation meditation. Yeah, a progressive muscle relaxation.
Yeah.
Just to really focus and isolate certain muscles in the body. And that's just drawing the attention, and especially on the breath work as well. But we've actually got a mindfulness specialist that has pre-recorded quite a lot of meditations for us with things like motivation to exercise and just working a lot of box breathing, which is some breath work of just inhaling on some counts, holding your breath for, say, 4 counts, and then exhaling for 4 counts, and then holding for 4 counts, and then just increasing those. So they're the techniques that we really tend to work with. But for me, we do run some meditations, but all the pre-recorded are on the website for our clients as well. But it's really just about them opening up and trying to detach from the mind and the stories that can be created. So really trying to, what's the best way to say it? Kind of not just get carried away on things or a look someone's given them or a conversation they might have had, and then have that escalating to something that's not actually happening. And whether that's in their mental health journey or just things in their personal life going on as well. So it's really just trying to bring that back and stay as present as possible, and giving them certain techniques. If they are having panic attacks, for example, and there's the 5 rule of trying to look around and see a few things and touch and feel and taste. And so it's just little techniques to just assist people on their journeys if they are really struggling. But for us, the main thing is just we do meditations every day. We try and do it twice a day. So when we wake up first in the morning and when we go to bed as well, just to really clear the mind as well and just release, have that just centering moment where we can take some focus on our breaths and focus on ourselves internally and not externally what's going on and get caught up, in the world around us. Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Well, I know for a fact it works because it worked on me.
Oh,
That night I slept like a baby. After Jayne did that guided meditation with me and Ross and I, we were just laying there and I'm like, oh my God, I feel the most relaxed I felt in my entire life. So I have Jayne to thank for that.
Beautiful.
Ross, I know you do too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna toss it out to James. See if James has a question for you guys.
Well, absolutely. Quickly to speak to the breathwork piece, I know that box breathing can be an incredibly useful tool, and I know it's utilized by our military special forces here as a way to calm the mind. Because a lot of times people believe that the autonomic nervous system is automatic, but it's not. And there's ways to switch the body from that hypervigilant sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and be able to then change that automatic response to a parasympathetic, rest and digest. And once we learn to have more control over that through mindfulness and through breath work, then we can learn to just be able to switch our states very quickly, to be able to ramp down from these hypervigilance, anxiety, and stress responses that are bubbling up within us. A question that I have for you is, how do you help the people that you work with integrate the practices that you teach them into their daily lives?
Sorry, I missed that last bit. Sorry.
We got most of it. It's very quiet on our end.
My question would be...
Sorry.
Okay, yes. My question would be, how do you help the people that you work with integrate their practices into their daily life?
Okay, so we do, we're with them. So we have a few different packages with our business. So some are more one-to-one, where we're with them quite a few times a week and we're checking in. And the others are more the life group scenarios, after Ross does an exercise session with them, and then we do our mindfulness. So we're really trying, but for us, it's about building up a routine in a sense. So it's really about trying to, I guess, be accountable yourselves for every day and just make it become habitual. So we're there guiding and assisting them and offering as much support as we can and checking in and sending emails and messages. But I think there's got to be a little bit of accountability there and a little bit of ownership to the person to want to help themselves as well. I mean, that was something with Ross when he was coming out of this. I was saying, oh, you could do this, you could try this, especially when he was having his night terrors or panic attacks. And as you said, activating the parasympathetic nervous system and giving techniques to assist him. However, I think if someone's not willing within themselves, it's very hard to support someone if they're not, I guess, going to put in a little bit of the work themselves. So we're there 100% with them, but it also has to fall on their shoulders a little bit as well to actually go and do the meditations outside of us and just, make their life choices that are going to complement themselves and their progress and their health.
I suppose that's why people choose the different packages. If they want that personalized one-on-one service, then we can help them as much as we can. But as Jayne said, they still need to be willing to do that work on the outside of our sessions.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, really is.
And that approach is akin to something I recognized as a survival strategy for me with my ADHD. And that's the idea of body doubling.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm struggling with executive dysfunction or internal ordering and deadlines, having a person who's either on the phone or present to help me be accountable for that practice I'm trying to create that habit, that accountability supercharges habit formation and really allows me to then begin to integrate those routines.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. No, I can't.
I love it. This has been a great conversation so far. So Ross and Jayne Quick and James Bagans here on episode, I forgot what episode we are, 6, part 2. I've got so many episodes going on right now. It's not even funny. My world has come to an end as I know it because it has literally been crazy booking people for the podcast. And so we've got many more unscripted episodes that are interviews than we do have scripted episodes. So we're held up in production right now due to the fact that we don't have the scripted episodes on hand that we need to put out the content. So we may just start cranking out episodes weekly here at the Bipolar Bachelor podcast.
Gosh.
Look after your health in the meantime too, Jared.
So
got to look after number one at times too.
My health is a little rocky at the moment. It's been a little bit of an interesting twist of events. I went to the hospital for 2 weeks, as you heard in the previous episode prior to this one. I had to admit myself because I couldn't get out of psychosis and mania. And I came out of the hospital worse off than before. And now I've been balancing out as a functioning member of society and someone who has a podcast, who is an influence, who is a force to be reckoned with, if I say so myself. You know, but it's just, it's a process, you know, it's a process. And I believe firmly that I need to depend on my support system in times of crisis like this, which is why I've got James, which is why I've got my mom and dad, which is why I've got you guys, all my Instagram family that keep me accountable and hold me to my my motivations and whatnot, you know, keep me going. Yeah. So I have a lot of people to thank for helping me continue the fight, because I've just wanted to throw the towel in, you know. I want to give up. I want to quit living, not suicidally, but just kind of be done and just rest, you know. All I want is a little bit of rest. And so I think now that I'm getting the rest that I need through sleep, through therapy, through, you know, resting throughout the day, I think it's about damn time I got off my ass and started producing some podcasts. So,
well, as long as you're not putting too much pressure on you.
That's how my mental health is. How is yours, Ross?
Yeah, it's good. I'm so in awe of what you're doing, because whenever I went through my own psychosis, I'd need to just take weeks at a time where I just didn't really want to put myself on show to the public. And it's just amazing what you're doing. Like, you're still, you know, you must be, I suppose, struggling internally a little bit with still putting that pressure on yourself to still do these podcasts. But I think it's amazing that, you know, you're breaking the stigma around mental health and diagnoses and that sort of thing. And I look at what you're doing, and I don't think I would have been able to do that in my past. But I congratulate you for what you're doing.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your kind words. I'm being held together by a little bit of Crisco and fishing line right now.
But my mental health is...
But no, seriously.
I'm practicing really good, you know, strategies. Like, I'm doing the things I love. I try to surf most days. I try to... Jayne said before, we do meditations twice a day, exercise as much as I can, and just try to practice healthy habits like eating healthily and getting good sleep. And so I'm in a really good space at the moment. Thank you.
Good. I'm happy for you. How about you, Jayne, my darling? How about you?
Yes, all good here. Thank you. Very well.
Good.
Other than a little bit nauseous, we're expecting number 2. So a little bit.
Yay! Oh, that's so fantastic. Congratulations. What a way to announce to the world. That's going to be the best baby announcement ever.
We're at that stage now. It's at the 12-week mark where we can start telling people. Yes. So we better start telling some friends before this goes out to the public.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, luckily, you got a little time before this hits the airwaves. So, oh my gosh. Well, congratulations to you two, Mom and Dad. Number 2
Thank you.
is on the way. What are we hoping for?
What are we hoping for? A healthy baby.
A boy or a girl?
Well, we've got a girl, so it'd be nice to have one or the other, but it would also be lovely to have 2 girls as sisters. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. You guys are amazing parents. Adona Mila is so cute. She's a beautiful little baby. And she likes me, so that makes her even better in my book. I love it. I love it. Well, we have about 10 minutes left, so I'd like to spend that time just kind of conversing. Ross, we talked about your story last time, so what kind of take us through? Don't retell the whole story, because, you know, people can go back and listen to part 1 for that. But this is a continuation of your story. Tell us how you've gotten to the point where you are today, where you've successfully beaten your mental illness. You aren't struggling as much as you used to. What's the key to living a successful life like you've got, Ross?
Sure. Like, I've I definitely wouldn't say it's a successful life. It's been a long journey, and I'm always learning myself about better ways of living, and I think that's just a lifelong journey. But I suppose back I travelled from when I went travelling and getting back to Australia. I spent a good 6 years or so still kind of going back to my old ways and drinking, and every now and then dabbling, taking drugs every so often. And it got to a stage after about 6 years of drinking quite heavily and binge drinking with my friends that I was just getting the worst anxiety attacks just for days to come after those sessions. And it got to a stage, my family just couldn't handle it anymore. It was that they basically held an intervention for me and said, look, this needs to stop. Like, you can't keep going on like this. And I think at that stage, when you see tears in your mum's eyes and the rest of the family, it got to a stage where I'm like, I don't think this is...
it's hard.
So it's not helping me, what I'm doing, and it's having a huge effect on my family. So it got to a stage where I just said, look, I'm not going to drink anymore. Every now and then I have one or two drinks, but I don't drink to get drunk. And over the space of 2014 to now, I've just slowly just gotten better and better because I've put in strategies into place, like I mentioned earlier, exercise, mindfulness, healthy eating, and all these things that would just slowly, over time, I just slowly got better and better. Jayne, I met in 2018. No, 2015. My bad. It's gone so quick. So, yeah.
I won't tell.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Right.
And then Jayne was so supportive of me. It was, probably about 6 months into not drinking that I met Jayne, and she probably wouldn't have taken any interest in me if I was still doing what I was doing. And then, she just gave me lots of strategies from her way of growing up with family who are very spiritual and, practice mindfulness every day. And I suppose over that time, we've just slowly built strategies as a team together. And here I am today that, I'm doing really well. So, we've got a beautiful family, young family. We've got another one on the way. And I've actually found a new lease on life being a dad. Like, I just couldn't be happier. Like, my daughter is my world.
How incredible.
And it's a testament to you, I think, doing a lot of the work. I think we can talk about these things, but unless you're willing to put in the effort and actually work internally, grow internally,
right.
It's tough because, there's a lot of conditionings, a lot of indoctrinations, learned behaviour we have from our youth growing up, and it's unpacking all those and working through it. So it's not just, I'll just tick the boxes and start doing some mindfulness. There's a lot of deep set, issues to work through as to why things are manifested in the way they have. And it's really releasing those and working through resolving them and kind of becoming more, in tune with yourself and your body and your direction and path in life.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Ross and Jayne and James Bagans joining us for part 2 of the conversation from part 1 of episode 6. Guys, thank you for joining us tonight. In closing, I'd like to toss it out to James and then Ross and Jayne if you guys have any closing comments that you'd like to speak about, anything in particular you want to share, if you want to promote your company or your podcast or whatever, or, whoever, whatever. So, James, we'll start with you. You got anything to add in closing, my friend?
Yes. One more question would be, how do we address the stigma that is very common about people with mental health? I can think of a number of political figures who may have been called psychotic by the news in the last few days. So I'm wondering, how do we move away from using terms that pathologize mental health? And how do we also begin to rupture the notion of normal in society?
Yeah, for us, I think it's just talking about it. That's what normalizes everything. We don't actually watch the news. We tend to stay away. We find it's all a bit glorified, and we just...
I feel that.
Yeah, we don't really even watch a lot of TV. We both love sport, so we do watch something called AFL over here, which is Aussie Rules Football and cricket, and I don't think America's big on cricket either, but we love sport. But the rest, we just don't go there for our family with TV. We never have it switched on. So for us, it's just communication, normal, just talking with people, and more. I mean, we're not on a big scale where we're not celebrities or anything, so we don't have, I guess, that outreach to be able to get to as many people. But for us, it's just about the people we speak to. I mean, even if we go get a drink from a cafe, we'll just start talking about what we do, and everybody seems to know somebody and can relate. So it's just, for us, we've found the best approach is just talking to people, just having that discussion, and just making it normal of what society thinks is normal. Like, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, how's your mental health? It's just another discussion, and there's no stigma. Right. It's just being able to just speak openly and honestly with people. And for us, that's been the best approach.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
Removing value judgments and it becomes descriptive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Ross and Jayne, what about you? Any closing comments before we end out the second part of your episode tonight?
I would like to thank you both for being here, and especially James for turning up to be co-host. And I'd love to have more discussions and further this after this podcast. Find out if you have a website or a Instagram account, or just follow your journey as well. It'd be fascinating. Yeah.
He's got quite a journey, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been the Bipolar Bachelor Podcast, Season 2, Episode 6, Part 2, with Ross and Jayne Quick and James Bagans Jr. from Michigan and from Queensland, Australia. So here we say goodnight to you from New Orleans, Louisiana, from the studio here in New Orleans, and we look forward to what's coming down the pipelines with the Bipolar Bachelor Podcast next. Not giving any secrets away, but it's going to be a good one. You don't want to miss it. So make sure you tune into the Bipolar Bachelor Podcast. Also find these guys on Instagram, James and Ross. Ross and Jayne
That's a tricky one.
are at Quick Results Training on Instagram. Look them up that way. And then James will give you his Instagram handle.
Yes, it is at BJamesB_MPH.
There you go. So until next time, when Ross and Jayne and I do an Instagram Live or something, we look forward to working with them in the future and keeping the conversation open surrounding the stigma of mental health. So, guys, thank you for joining me today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Absolutely. So until next time on the Bipolar Bachelor Podcast, we'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.